Welcome to Calming Bedtime Journeys channel. Tonight we step quietly into a winter night inside a medieval monastery, where the cold settles into stone and silence carries more weight than words. Have you ever wondered what it truly felt like to live through those long frozen hours, guided only by candlelight and faith? Or how men wrapped in simple wool endured nights that seemed to stretch without end? Some imagine warmth and peace, but the truth is softer, slower, and perhaps a little more uncomfortable than expected. So before you settle into the story, take a second to like the video and hit subscribe, and if you feel like sharing, let me know your location and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights. You stand just inside the cloister, your breath already visible in the air. The cold is not sharp at first, it does not strike like wind on an open field. Instead, it seeps. It settles slowly into your sleeve, your collar, your hands. The stone beneath your feet holds the memory of many winters, and it offers no comfort tonight. You draw your robe closer. It helps a little. The fabric is coarse, woven from wool that still carries a faint, earthy scent. It is practical, not luxurious, designed to endure rather than to please. Beneath it you feel layers that trap what little warmth your body creates, a quiet defense against the long night ahead. The cloister arches stretch around you, forming a square of shadow and a pale light. A few candles flicker along the walls, their flames uncertain, bending gently whenever a draught finds its way through the corridors. The light is enough to guide your steps, but not enough to chase away the darkness entirely. You begin to walk. Your footsteps are soft, absorbed by a worn stone that has carried countless others before you. Each step echoes faintly, not loudly, but just enough to remind you that you're not alone here. And yet it feels solitary. There is a stillness that surrounds everything. It is not empty. It is full in a quiet way, filled with expectation, with routine, with something you cannot quite name. A mainstream historical understanding tells us that monasteries followed strict daily rhythms, especially in winter when darkness lasted longer and shaped every activity. The night was not a break from structure. It was part of it. You pause near one of the arches. Beyond it, the courtyard lies open to the sky, though little can be seen now. The outlines of snow or frost blur together in the dim light, forming a pale surface that reflects just enough brightness to soften the darkness above. Your breath slows. You listen. There is a faint sound of wind moving somewhere beyond the walls. It does not reach you directly, but you can hear its presence, a low, distant motion that reminds you how exposed the world outside truly is. Inside, everything feels contained. You shift your hands inside your sleeves, tucking them closer to your body. The warmth is thin, but it is yours. It moves with you, shaped by your breath, your steps, your quiet awareness of the cold. Some lesser-known accounts suggest that monks often relied on shared body heat and layered clothing rather than constant fire during the night, since maintaining flames safely in sleeping areas was difficult. This meant that comfort came not from abundance, but from careful adaptation. You continue walking. The rhythm of your steps becomes steady, almost soothing. There is no urgency here, no rush. The night unfolds at its own pace, and you find yourself adjusting to it without resistance. A small sound catches your attention. You stop. It's nothing dramatic. Just the soft creak of wood somewhere nearby, perhaps a door settling, or a beam adjusting as the temperature shifts. Yet in this quiet, even the smallest noise feels significant. You notice more now, the faint hiss of a candle, the subtle movement of air through unseen gaps, the quiet presence of others moving in distant corridors, their steps too soft to fully hear but just enough to sense. Historians still debate whether the silence of monastic life was ever truly complete, or if it was always filled with these subtle layers of sound that modern imagination tends to overlook. You take another breath. The air is cool as it enters your lungs, carrying a faint scent of wax and stone. There is also something else, something harder to define. Perhaps the lingering trace of smoke from earlier fires, or the natural scent of aged wood and fabric. It is not unpleasant, just present. You move again, slower now. The arches guide you along the cloister walk, their repetition creating a gentle rhythm that mirrors your own movement. Each column stands solid and unmoving, shaped by hands long gone, yet still serving their purpose without change. You reach a corner and turn. The view shifts slightly, offering a new angle of the same quiet space. It feels both familiar and new, as though the monastery reveals itself in small pieces rather than all at once. Your shoulders relax. The cold is still there, but it no longer feels intrusive. It has become part of the experience, something you move within rather than something you resist. You adjust your robe again. The fabric brushes softly against your hands, its texture grounding you in the present moment. It reminds you that everything here is simple, direct, and purposeful. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is excessive. You pause once more, this time near a small doorway leading deeper into the monastery. Beyond it, the light is even dimmer, the space more enclosed. It invites you forward, but without insistence. You hesitate, not out of fear, just awareness. The night ahead is long. There will be prayers, moments of rest, and intervals of wakefulness that blur together in ways you may not fully notice until morning arrives. Time here does not pass in the same way it does outside these walls. It stretches, it softens, it lingers. You place your hand lightly against the stone beside you. It is cold as expected, yet beneath that cold there is a steadiness, a quiet permanence that contrasts with the shifting nature of everything else. The walls do not change with the seasons in the same way people do. They endure. You step through the doorway. The corridor beyond is narrower. The ceiling lower, the air slightly warmer, though only by a small degree. A single candle burns at the far end, its light steady casting long shadows that move gently as you walk. Your footsteps echo a little more here, not loudly, just enough. You become aware of your own presence in a new way, each movement leaving a subtle impression in the space around you. It is not intrusive, but it is noticeable. You slow down again. There is no need to hurry. The night will continue regardless of your pace unfolding in its quiet, deliberate manner. You are simply moving within it one step at a time. And as you continue forward deeper into the monastery, you begin to understand something subtle. This night is not empty. It's full of small details, quiet sensations, and gentle rhythms that reveal themselves only if you allow them to. You take another breath, and you keep walking. The bell begins before you see it. A low, steady tone rises through the stone carried along corridors and across open spaces with quiet authority. It does not startle you. It settles into you as though it has always been there waiting for you to notice. You stop walking, just for a moment. The sound continues, measured and unhurried, each strike spaced with care. It is not loud in the way a market bell might be. It does not demand. It invites. You listen closely. The tone feels round, almost soft at its edges, shaped by distance and stone. It travels differently here, guided by arches and walls that seem to hold it, then release it slowly into the air. A commonly accepted historical detail is that monastery bells structured the entire day and night, signalling moments for prayer, rest, and work with precise regularity. Even in the depth of winter, when darkness lingered, the bell remained constant. You feel it in your chest, a quiet vibration. You begin to move again, this time with a clearer sense of direction. The bell is not just a sound, it is guidance. It tells you where to go without words, shaping your path through the dim corridors. Your steps fall into rhythm with it, not perfectly, but close enough. The corridor stretches ahead, lit by a series of small candles placed at intervals along the wall. Their flames flicker gently, each one creating a small circle of light that fades into shadow before the next begins. Between them, darkness gathers. You pass through one pool of light, then another. Each step carries you forward deeper into the monastery's quiet order. The air here feels slightly warmer than the cloister, though the difference is subtle. It is enough that your hands loosen slightly inside your sleeves. The bell continues. You notice how it changes as you move. At times it seems closer, its tone clearer. Then as the corridor bends, it softens again, filtered through layers of stone. It never disappears. A faint draft brushes against your cheek. You pause. It slips through unseen gaps in the walls, carrying with it a trace of the outside. There is a hint of cold sharper than what you have felt inside, a reminder of the winter beyond these sheltered spaces. You pull your robe closer again. The fabric responds, shifting softly against your shoulders. It holds what warmth it can, though it never quite lets you forget the season. There is a subtle smell here. You notice it now. Wax, yes, always wax, but also something else. Perhaps oil from the lamps or the faint trace of old wood and worn cloth. It lingers in the air, never overwhelming, but always present. It feels familiar. Some records suggest that monasteries often had distinct scents that changed with the seasons, shaped by the materials they used and the limited ventilation of enclosed spaces. Winter in particular tended to concentrate these smells, making them more noticeable. You continue forward. The corridor opens slightly ahead, leading into a broader passage where the ceiling lifts just enough to change the feeling of the space. The bell sounds different here, fuller, less constrained. You step into it. Your footsteps echo a little more now, though still softly. The stone floor is smoother worn by years of passage. It reflects the candlelight, faintly creating a dim sheen beneath your feet. You slow again, not because you must, because it feels natural. A figure passes in the distance. You notice the movement before the person becomes clear. A shadow shifts, then resolves into the outline of another monk moving quietly along a crossing corridor. His steps are measured, his posture sturdy. He does not speak, neither do you. You acknowledge each other only through presence, a shared understanding that words are not needed here. The bell speaks for both of you, guiding each of your paths without confusion. He disappears into shadow. You remain. The sound continues. You begin to sense time differently. Not in minutes or hours, but in intervals marked by the bell. Each strike feels like a gentle marker, a reminder that the night is moving even if it feels still. Historians still debate whether individuals living within such rigid schedules experience time as more structured or more fluid, since repetition can both define and dissolve the sense of passing hours. You take a slow breath. The air fills your lungs, coolly steady and clean, though touched by the lingering sense of the monastery. You exhale, watching your breath fade quickly in the dim light. Your body feels calmer. Now easy, to now. The earlier tension has softened, replaced by a quiet awareness that matches the rhythm around you. The cold remains, but it's no longer something you resist. It simply exists. You reach another turn. This one leads toward a heavier wooden door, slightly ajar. A thin line of warmer light spills from within, more golden than the pale glow of the corridor candles. You approach it. The bell continues, though. Now it feels more distant, as though the walls here absorb more of its sound. It is still present, but softer, like a memory rather than a command. You pause at the doorway. Inside, the light shifts, gently casting slow-moving shadows that stretch and contract along the floor. The air feels different here, carrying a hint of warmth stronger than what you have felt so far. You step closer. The wood of the door is worn smooth in places where hands have touched it repeatedly over time. You rest your fingers lightly against it, feeling the texture, the faint coolness beneath your skin. It is solid, reliable. You push it slightly wider. The movement is quiet, the hinges barely making a sound. The light spills out a little more, brushing against your robe, your hands, your face. For a moment you remain where you are, between spaces. Behind you the corridor stretches back into dimness shaped by candles and shadow. Ahead the room offers something warmer, something more contained. You listen again. The bell fades into its final tones, each one softer than the last, until the sound settles completely into silence. The absence feels noticeable, not empty, just changed. A brief pause settles over everything, as though the monastery itself takes a quiet breath between moments. Then slowly the stillness returns. You step inside. The warmth inside the room meets you gently, though it is not what you might expect. It is not the deep enveloping warmth of a large fire. It is lighter than that, thinner, but still noticeable after the corridors behind you. It settles across your face and hands, first softening the edge of the cold that has followed you. You pause just inside the doorway. The room is simple. Stone walls, a few wooden benches and a narrow table set against one side. Several candles burn steadily, their light more concentrated, forming a calm golden glow that gathers rather than disperses. You close the door behind you. The sound is quiet. The space feels smaller, now more contained, as though the outside cold has been held at a respectful distance. It does not disappear, but it loosens its grip. You loosen your shoulders slightly. The robe you wear shifts with you, its weight familiar, its texture grounding. You begin to notice how carefully it has been made. The wool is thick layered in a way that traps warmth close to your body even when the air itself remains cool. You rub your hands together once, slowly. They respond with a faint warmth, though the chill has not fully left them. It lingers in your fingertips, a reminder of the cloister and the corridors. A widely accepted historical detail is that monks relied heavily on layered wool garments during winter, since heating entire stone buildings was nearly impossible. Clothing became their primary protection against the cold rather than the spaces they inhabited. You move further into the room. Another monk sits along the wall, his posture relaxed but upright. His hands rest within his sleeves, much like yours. He does not look up as you enter, as though you sense that he is aware of your presence. There is no tension in the silence, only agreement. You take a place along the opposite wall, lowering yourself onto a wooden bench. The surface is firm, worn smooth from use, offering little in the way of comfort, yet enough to support you. You settle. Your body begins to adjust. The warmth here is subtle but steady. It gathers slowly, built from the presence of others, from the enclosed space, and from the small flames that continue to burn without interruption. You notice the candles more closely. Their flames are calm, barely moving as though protected from drafts. The wax melts slowly, forming soft shapes that catch the light and hold it. A faint scent rises from them, slightly sweet, mixed with the natural smell of tallow. It lingers in the air. Some accounts suggest that tallow candles made from animal fat were common in many monasteries, producing a thicker scent compared to beeswax. This meant that rooms like this often carried a distinct lingering odour that became part of daily life. You take a breath. The air feels fuller here, touched by warmth, by scent, by the quiet presence of others. It is different from the open stillness of the cloister, more enclosed, more intimate. You draw your robe tighter once more. Not out of necessity, out of habit. The fabric brushes against your neck, your wrists, your chest. It creates a small barrier between you and the air, holding your body's heat in place. You begin to understand how essential this simple garment truly is. Without it, the night would feel much longer. You shift slightly on the bench. The wood presses back against you, firm and unyielding. Beneath you, you imagine layers of straw or padding that might exist elsewhere in the monastery, but not here. This space is not for rest in that sense. It is for waiting, for gathering, for quiet preparation before what comes next. You glance toward the other monk. He remains still, though not rigid. His breathing is slow measured, almost blending into the rhythm of the room itself. You notice the rise and fall of his shoulders beneath his robe, the subtle movement that marks the passing of time. No words are exchanged. They are not needed. Historians still question whether such enforced silence deepened inner reflection, or simply became a routine that individuals adapted to without constant awareness. You rest your hands again. This time they feel slightly warmer. The stiffness in your fingers is eased, replaced by a gentle flexibility that returns slowly. It is a small change, but noticeable enough to bring a sense of quiet relief. You listen. The room has its own sounds, very faint. The soft crackle of a candle. The almost imperceptible shift of fabric as someone adjusts their position. The quiet movement of breath shared between a few individuals in close space. Nothing stands out. Everything blends. You lower your gaze. The stone floor beneath your feet reflects the candlelight in a muted way, its surface uneven but worn smooth by time. Small variations in the stone catch the light differently, creating subtle patterns that shift as the flames move. You watch them for a moment. They change slowly, without urgency. A small curious detail sometimes noted in a monastic life is that monks often became highly attuned to such minor visual shifts since their environment offered few distractions. Even the movement of light could become something worth observing. You lean back slightly. The wall behind you is cool, though not as cold as the corridors outside. It supports you without comfort, yet without discomfort as well. It simply exists, solid and unchanged. You let your head rest lightly against it. Your eyes remain open. The warmth continues to build slowly, almost imperceptibly. It is not strong, but it is enough. Combined with your clothing and your stillness, it creates a small pocket of comfort within the larger cold of the night. You breathe in, then out. Time moves quietly here. You are no longer focused on the cold or the corridor or even the bell that guided you. Instead, your attention settles into the present moment, shaped by warmth, by light, by the simple act of being still. You notice how your body begins to relax. Not fully, but enough. Your shoulders drop slightly. Your hands rest more naturally. The tension you carried earlier has softened into something easier, something quieter. You sit like this for a while. There is no clear measure of how long. The candles burn steadily. The other monk remains still. The room holds its gentle balance between warmth and cold, between light and shadow. And within that balance you begin to understand something subtle. Warmth here is not given freely. It is created, held, protected. You draw your robe closer one last time, and you remain. You remain seated for a while longer, allowing the warmth of the room to settle into you in its quiet, patient way. Then slowly you rise. Your body responds with a gentle stiffness, not unpleasant but noticeable enough to remind you how long you have been still. Your knees straighten, your shoulders shift, and the wool of your robe falls back into place with a soft, familiar weight. You step away from the bench. The air greets you again, cooler now that you have left the small pocket of shared warmth. It brushes lightly against your face and hands, carrying with it the faint scent of wax and stone that seems to follow you everywhere inside these walls. You move toward the doorway. The candlelight behind you stretches your shadow across the floor, long and quiet, fading as you reach the threshold. You pause there for a moment, your hand resting against the wood, feeling its smooth, worn surface beneath your fingers. Then you open it. The corridor beyond welcomes you with a softer light than before. The candles here burn lower now, their flames smaller, their glow more subdued. The night has deepened and the monastery reflects that change in its own quiet way. You step out. Your breath appears again, faint but visible, drifting gently in front of you before dissolving into the air. It moves slowly, almost lazily, shaped by the stillness around you. You take a few steps forward. The corridor feels longer now, not because it has changed, but because your awareness has shifted. Each movement carries more detail, more sensation, more presence than before. The cold presses lightly against your skin, no longer sharp but persistent. You draw your robe closer. The fabric holds what warmth it can, though you can feel the difference now, the contrast between the enclosed room and this open passage. It is subtle but unmistakable. You continue walking. The candles along the wall flicker gently, their light catching the edges of the stone and revealing textures you did not notice earlier. Small imperfections, like variations in the surface marks left by time and use. You pass one flame, then another. Between them, the darkness feels deeper, more settled, as though it has grown comfortable in its place. Your breath steadies. You begin to notice how it changes with your movement. When you pause, it becomes more visible, lingering longer in the air. When you walk, it fades more quickly, carried away by the slight motion around you. A detail often mentioned in descriptions of medieval interiors is how limited light sources shaped perception, making even small movements of air or shadow more noticeable than they would be today. You slow your pace, not out of necessity, out of instinct. There is something about this hour that encourages it. The night does not ask for speed. It unfolds gently and you find yourself matching that rhythm without thinking. A faint sound reaches you. You stop. It is the soft shift of fabric somewhere nearby, followed by a quiet footstep. Another figure moves in the distance, partially hidden by shadow and the curve of the corridor. You watch for a moment. The figure passes through a patch of light, then disappears again, leaving only the memory of motion behind. No words are spoken. The silence remains unbroken. You continue forward. The corridor narrows slightly, drawing you into a more enclosed space, where the ceiling lowers and the air feels heavier, though not warmer. The walls seem closer here, guiding your path more directly. You reach out briefly, letting your fingers brush against the stone. It is cool, smooth in places, rough in others. The texture grounds you, connecting you to something steady and unchanging. The walls have stood through countless nights like this, holding the same cold, the same softness, the same quiet movement of people passing through. You let your hand fall back to your side. The sound of your steps changes here, becoming softer, more contained, as though the space itself absorbs them more fully. It creates a sense of closeness, of being held within the structure rather than simply moving through it. You take a slow breath. The air carries a faint trace of smoke, now lighter than before, mixed with the scent of old wood and something slightly damp. It suggests spaces nearby where fires have burned earlier, leaving behind their quiet presence. Some historical observations note that maintaining consistent warmth in large stone buildings was nearly impossible, leading to pockets of slightly warmer air near enclosed or previously heated rooms, while other areas remained cold. You continue on. The corridor bends gently, revealing another stretch of wall lined with candles, though fewer than before. Their light is more spaced out, creating longer intervals of shadow between them. You move through one, then another. Your shadow shifts with each step, stretching, shortening, dissolving, and returning as you pass through the light. You notice how your eyes adjust. In brighter areas, the details are clearer, the edges sharper. In darker spaces, everything softens, becoming less defined, more suggestive than real. You begin to trust that softness. It feels less like uncertainty, more like calm. You reach a small alcove. Within it, a single candle burns, placed on a narrow ledge carved into the wall. Its flame is steady, almost perfectly still, casting a quiet, focused light that gathers closely around it. You pause there, for no particular reason, just to look. The flame moves slightly as you approach, responding to the air your movement creates. It bends, then straightens again, returning to its steady form. A lesser-known detail about candle use in such settings is that even small drafts could significantly affect how long a candle lasted, making their placement and protection an important, though often overlooked part of daily life. You watch the flame for a moment longer, then you move on. Your steps remain slow measured, guided by the rhythm that has settled into you since the bell first sounded. The night feels fuller now, not because anything has changed dramatically, but because you have begun to notice more. The air, the light, the quiet presence of others, the subtle shifts of your own body as it responds to the cold and the stillness. You pass another turn. The corridor opens slightly again, offering a glimpse of a wider space ahead, though still dim, still shaped by shadow and candlelight. It invites you forward, not with urgency, but with quiet continuity. You follow. There is no need to question it. This is how the night unfolds here, step by step, breath by breath, light by light. And as you continue, you realize something gentle but certain. The cold has not lessened, the darkness has not lifted, yet neither feels as heavy as before. You have adjusted, without effort, without resistance. You simply move within it now, and the monastery moves with you. The space ahead widens gradually, not in a dramatic way, but enough that you feel the shift before you fully see it. The ceiling lifts. The air opens slightly. Your steps carry you into a long dormitory where rows of simple beds stretch into the dim distance, each one narrow, each one nearly identical. The candlelight here is softer, placed carefully, so it does not disturb the stillness more than necessary. You pause near the entrance. The room holds a quiet presence that feels different from the corridors. It is not empty yet, it is not active. It rests somewhere in between, shaped by those who have already settled within it. You take a step forward, then another. Your footsteps remain soft, absorbed by the worn floor, though here they seem even quieter, as though the room itself encourages silence. A well-established understanding of monastic life is that dormitories were often shared spaces where monks slept in close proximity, following rules that emphasize simplicity and uniformity rather than comfort or privacy. You move along the edge of the room. The beds are simple frames, each topped with a thin layer of straw or coarse bedding. Some are already occupied, others remain empty, waiting. You notice the forms beneath the blankets. Still, quiet, breathing. The presence of others is unmistakable, yet it does not feel intrusive. It settles into the space in a gentle way, creating a sense of shared existence rather than individual separation. You reach an empty bed. It stands no different from the rest. No markings, no distinction. You pause beside it, your hand resting lightly on the wooden frame. The surface is cool, though not as cold as the stone walls. It carries a faint smoothness from use softened over time. You sit down, slowly. The straw beneath this covering shifts slightly, producing a soft, dry sound. It is not unpleasant, but it is noticeable, a quiet reminder of the materials that make up this place. You adjust your position. The bedding yields just enough to support you, though it offers little in the way of softness. It is functional, designed for rest without indulgence. You lie back. The ceiling above you stretches into shadow, its shape only partly visible in the dim light. The beams cross overhead in steady lines, forming patterns that repeat without variation. You exhale. Your breath rises, faintly visible again, though less so than in the corridors. The air here is slightly warmer, held in place by the enclosed space and the presence of many bodies. It feels different, more settled. You draw your robe around you. The fabric gathers close, creating a small space of warmth that belongs entirely to you. Beneath it, your body begins to retain heat more effectively, the chill easing from your core even as it lingers at your edges. You turn your head slightly. The room stretches on, filled with quiet forms and soft shadows. No one speaks. No one moves more than necessary. The silence is not simply exists, shared by everyone present. A detail often highlighted in studies of monastic routines is how communal sleeping arrangements reinforced both discipline and humility, reducing personal distinction and encouraging a collective identity. You close your eyes for a moment, then open them again. Sleep does not come immediately. Not yet. Your body is tired, but your awareness remains active, shaped by the unfamiliar environment and the subtle sensations that continue to surround you. You listen. The sounds here are different, gentler. The soft rise and fall of breathing. The faint shift of fabric as someone adjusts in their sleep. Occasionally, a quiet rustle from the straw beneath a turning body. Nothing sharp, nothing sudden. Just a steady shared rhythm. You notice your own breathing begin to match it. Slow, even. You take another breath. The air carries a faint mix of scents. Wool-worn and familiar. Straw dry and slightly earthy. A lingering trace of wax from the candles, though softer now, more distant. It blends together. You rest your hands against your chest. They feel warmer than before, the stiffness nearly gone. The warmth has returned gradually without effort, drawn from your own body and held by the layers around you. You shift slightly. The straw responds again with that quiet dry sound, reminding you of its presence beneath you. It is not entirely comfortable, but it is enough. A lesser-known detail from historical accounts is that straw bedding had to be replaced regularly to prevent dampness and decay, yet even when fresh, it rarely provided the softness modern rest might suggest. You turn your head again. A figure nearby moves slightly, then becomes still once more. The movement is small, almost unnoticeable, yet in this quiet space it draws your attention. You watch for a moment, then you let your gaze soften. There is no need to focus on any one thing. The room holds everything together. You feel it now, the shared presence, the quiet agreement, the absence of individuality in favor of something broader, something collective that shapes the experience of the night. You exhale slowly. Your body sinks a little deeper into the bedding, finding a position that feels stable if not entirely comfortable. Your shoulders relax, your hands rest more easily, your legs settle into stillness. You close your eyes again. This time you keep them closed a little longer. Your awareness does not disappear, but it shifts. It becomes less focused on specific details and more attuned to the overall feeling of the space. The warmth, the quiet, the steady rhythm of breath. Questions sometimes arise among scholars about how individuals adapted psychologically to such environments, whether the lack of privacy brought comfort through shared experience or tension through constant proximity. You do not consider that directly. You simply exist within it. Your breathing slows further. Your body grows heavier against the straw. The cold, though still present at the edges, no longer demands your attention. It has become part of the background, something that exists without needing response. You remain there. Still, quiet, aware but softening. And as the night deepens around you, you begin to sense how rest comes differently here. Not as a sudden descent into sleep, but as a gradual easing, a gentle letting go, one breath at a time. You remain still, eyes closed, letting the quiet rhythm of the dormitory settle deeper into you. For a time, nothing changes. Then slowly you become aware of something subtle. Structure. It is not visible. It does not announce itself. yet it shapes everything around you, guiding even this moment of rest. The stillness is not accidental. It has been formed, refined, and repeated through countless nights before this one. You open your eyes again. The room looks the same, yet you sense it differently now. Each bed, each breath, each small movement fits within a larger pattern that you are only beginning to understand. You shift slightly. The straw beneath you answers with a faint rustle, then settles again. You adjust your robe, pulling it closer around your shoulders, feeling the familiar weight of the wool against your skin. It anchors you. You sit up slowly. Your body resists at first, not from discomfort, but from the reluctance of leaving stillness behind. Your muscles respond in quiet increments, waking gently rather than all at once. You place your feet on the floor. The stone meets you with its cool steadiness, sending a mild chill upward through your body. It is not surprising, it is expected. You stand. Around you, the dormitory remains largely unchanged. A few figures shift slightly, but most remain at rest, their breathing steady, their forms still beneath their coverings. No one speaks. The silence continues. An important historical framework guiding this environment is the Rule of St. Benedict, a set of guidelines that structured monastic life in many medieval communities, shaping daily routines, behavior, and even the rhythms of sleep and prayer. You take a step away from your bed, then another. Your movements are careful, deliberate, shaped by the awareness that even the smallest sound carries in this quiet space. You avoid sudden motion, letting each step land softly, evenly. You move along the edge of the room. The candlelight flickers faintly, casting shifting patterns across the walls and floor. The light does not reach every corner, leaving pockets of shadow where forms soften and blend into one another. You glance toward them. Nothing moves there, only shadow. You continue. The air feels slightly cooler, away from the center of the room, where the warmth of shared presence gathers most strongly. It brushes against your face and hands, reminding you again of the winter that surrounds these walls. You draw your robe closer. The fabric responds, wrapping around you with quiet familiarity. It has become more than clothing now. It is protection, comfort, and constant companion. You pause near the doorway. The corridor beyond waits dim and quiet, much as you left it. The candles burn lower still, their light softer, their presence more fragile. You listen. There is no bell now, no clear signal, and yet you know. There is a sense of timing here that does not rely entirely on sound. It is carried in the body, in the repetition of days and nights that have shaped your awareness without your noticing. You step into the corridor. The change in air is immediate, though not harsh. It feels cooler, more open, less held than the dormitory behind you. Your breath becomes visible again, drifting gently in front of you before fading. You begin to walk. Your steps fall into a familiar rhythm, guided by memory more than instruction. The path ahead does not need to be reconsidered. It has been followed too many times for uncertainty to remain. You pass the first candle, then the next. The intervals of light and shadow stretch out before you, marking your progress in quiet segments. Each step carries you deeper into the structure that shapes this place. You notice how your body responds. There is no resistance, no hesitation, only movement. A curious observation noted by some historians is that such strict routines could become internalized to the point where individuals moved almost automatically, their actions guided by habit rather than conscious decision. You reach a turn. The corridor bends, revealing a slightly wider passage ahead. The ceiling lifts just enough to change the feeling of the space, allowing the air to move more freely. You take a breath. It fills your lungs with a cool clarity, touched by the faint scent of wax and aged stone. It is clean, though not fresh in the way outdoor air might be. You continue forward. A faint sound reaches you, not a bell. Something. You slow. It is the gentle murmur of movement ahead, perhaps others already making their way through the monastery, following the same unspoken guidance that has brought you here. You move toward it. The sound grows slightly clearer, though it never becomes loud. It remains subdued, respectful of the night, blending into the overall quiet rather than breaking it. You pass another corner. A figure appears briefly in the distance, then disappears behind a column. The motion is smooth, unhurried, matching the pace you have already adopted. You follow, not directly, but in alignment. The structure of the night reveals itself more fully now. It is not just a sequence of events. It is a flow, a continuous movement that carries everyone within it from one moment to the next. You reach another doorway. It stands open. Beyond it, the space is larger, darker, and filled with a presence that feels different from the dormitory or the corridor. It holds a quiet gravity, a sense of purpose that draws you forward without force. You pause at the threshold. Your hand rests lightly against the stone beside you. It is cool, steady, unchanged. It offers no guidance, yet it feels like part of the path you're following. You step inside. The air shifts again. Cooler, more open. The candlelight here is more distant, spread across a wider space, leaving larger areas in shadow. The room breathes differently, holding sound in a deeper, more resonant way. You take a few steps forward. Your footsteps echo slightly, with you still softly carried upward and outward by the space around you. It creates a sense of scale that contrasts with the smaller rooms you have left behind. You look ahead. Shapes begin to form in the dim light outlines of columns, arches, and open space that stretch beyond what you can fully see. The architecture feels larger, more expansive, designed for something beyond simple movement or rest. You stop. For a moment, you listen. The faint sounds of others arrive in fragments, small movements, quiet breaths, the soft shift of fabric. They gather within the space, not loud but present. You understand now. The night continues, and you're moving deeper into it. You stand within the larger space, letting your eyes adjust to its depth and quiet scale. The air feels different here. It moves more freely, though you cannot feel a direct current. It is simply less contained, less shaped by the narrow walls and low ceilings. The coolness settles more evenly across your face, and hands no longer gathered in small pockets. You take a slow step forward. Your foot meets the stone and the sound returns to you, soft but extended, carried upward into the vaulted darkness above. It lingers slightly longer than before, as though the space holds onto it for just a moment. You pause, listening. The sound fades, gradually dissolving into the stillness that surrounds you. You take another step, then another. The rhythm is steady, unforced, shaped by the quiet expectation that fills the room. You're not alone here, though. The space is wide enough to make each presence feel separate, almost distant. Shapes move at the edges of your vision. Other figures, each one wrapped in similar robes, each one moving with the same measured calm. No one hurries, no one lingers unnecessarily. Every motion feels part of a shared understanding that does not need explanation. You draw your robe closer. The fabric gathers around you, holding your warmth close, though the larger space makes the air feel cooler again. It reminds you that even within these walls, comfort shifts from place to place. You continue forward. The floor beneath you is smoother here, worn by years of passage. It reflects the faint candlelight in a subdued sheen, creating soft glimmers that appear and disappear as you move. You notice the columns. Tall, steady. They rise into the darkness above their tops, lost in shadow, their bases grounded firmly in the stone floor. They create a rhythm of their own, guiding the eye, shaping the space into quiet sections without fully enclosing it. You pass one, then another. Each one feels identical, yet subtly different, marked by time, by touch, by the slow passage of years. An observation often made about monastic architecture is that these large open spaces were designed not only for gathering, but to inspire a sense of humility through their scale and simplicity. You feel that now, not as something imposed, but as something that emerges naturally from the space itself. You slow your steps. The air carries a faint echo of earlier sounds, though they are too distant to define clearly. It is not silence in the absolute sense. It is layered, filled with the quiet presence of others, the soft movement of fabric, the distant shift of weight. You listen more carefully. There is a pattern, subtle, almost hidden. The sound of breathing, not just your own, but shared across the room. It rises and falls in gentle waves, never synchronized yet somehow connected. You take a breath, then release it. Your body begins to align with that rhythm, not consciously, but through quiet adjustment. Your shoulders ease, your steps soften, your movements become more deliberate. A small detail noted in some accounts is that in such spaces, even the awareness of one's own breathing can become more pronounced, shaping how individuals experience both stillness and time. You reach the center of the room. Here the light is dimmer, the candles placed farther apart their glow, unable to fully reach across the open space. The darkness feels deeper though not heavy. You pause again. The floor beneath you feels slightly colder here, as though the warmth from surrounding walls and bodies has less influence at this distance. It seeps gently upward, reminding you once more of the winter night beyond the monastery. You shift your weight. Your feet respond. You notice the sensation, then let it pass. A faint movement draws your attention. To your left, a figure lowers slowly, settling into a kneeling position. The motion is smooth practice, carried out without sound. Others nearby follow in similar ways, each movement quiet, each transition unhurried. You watch for a moment, then you understand. This is not random. It is part of the rhythm, part of the structure that has guided you here without words. You move toward an open space between two figures. You lower yourself carefully. Your knees meet the stone and the cold presses through the layers of your robe. It is not painful, but it is present, a steady pressure that anchors you in place. You adjust slightly, finding balance. Your hands rest within your sleeves, tucked close to your body, holding warmth where you can. Your head lowers just enough to ease your neck, your gaze softening toward the floor before you. The space settles, not into silence, but into something deeper, a shared stillness. You feel it, not as an absence, but as a presence. The room holds everyone within it, each individual part of a larger whole that moves without needing instruction. There is no single point of focus, no single sound that defines the moment. Everything blends. You take another breath. The air feels cooler now that you're still no longer warmed by movement. It brushes lightly against your face, carrying with it faint traces of stone and distant wax. You remain where you are. Your body grows more aware of its position, of the pressure of the floor, of the weight of your robe, of the subtle balance you maintain without thinking. Your thoughts begin to slow, not forced, not guided, simply responding to the environment around you. Some historians have suggested that repeated exposure to such structured stillness may have influenced how the individuals experienced introspection, shaping a form of awareness that was both disciplined and deeply internal. You do not analyze it. You simply feel it. The passing of time becomes less clear. Moments stretch, not in a way that feels long, but in a way that feels full. You remain kneeling, your breathing steady, your body still. The room holds its quiet rhythm, each person contributing without sound, without movement, beyond what is necessary. And as you stay within that stillness, you begin to notice something gentle but certain. The night is no longer something outside you. You are within it, part of it, held by it. You remain kneeling, your weight settled evenly, your breath slow and steady. After a time, you begin to notice the floor beneath you more clearly. At first, it is simply cold. Then gradually something else reveals itself. The stone does not feel entirely lifeless. It holds a faint trace of warmth, subtle and uneven, as though it has remembered the presence of others who passed here earlier in the day. You shift slightly. The sensation changes. Cool in one place, less so in another. You press your palm gently against the surface. It feels firm, unyielding, yet not entirely empty of heat. It carries the memory of sunlight that once touched it, of footsteps that warmed it, of bodies that rested here before you. This quiet retention is easy to overlook, yet it is there. Architectural studies often note that thick stone walls and floors can store small amounts of warmth over time, releasing it slowly, especially in enclosed spaces where heat does not escape quickly. You lift your hand. The air feels cooler again against your skin, more immediate, less softened than the surface you just touched. The contrast is slight but enough to notice. You settle your hands back into your sleeves. Your body adjusts once more, finding a position that balances stillness with comfort. The cold does not disappear, but it becomes something you move within rather than something that pushes against you. You raise your gaze slightly. The columns stand around you, their forms clearer now that your eyes have adapted further to the dim light. They create a quiet order guiding the space without enclosing it. Between them the darkness rests. Not heavy, not empty, simply present. You listen again. The shared breathing continues, soft and steady, blending into the atmosphere like a gentle undercurrent. It does not draw attention to itself, yet it shapes the experience of the space in a quiet, continuous way. You take a breath, then release it. Your body feels more settled now, less aware of each individual sensation, more attuned to the overall stillness that surrounds you. A faint sound reaches you. It is not movement. Not exactly. More like a subtle shift within the structure itself. A quiet settling of wood or stone as the temperature continues to drop outside. It is barely noticeable, yet in this silence it carries a quiet significance. You notice it, then let it pass. Some lesser-known observations suggest that medieval buildings often produce such subtle sounds during the night as materials responded to changes in temperature and moisture, creating a quiet language of their own. You remain still. The candlelight flickers faintly at the edges of the space, too distant to fully illuminate where you kneel, yet present enough to soften the darkness. The light does not reach you directly, but it shapes the shadows around you in gentle shifting patterns. You watch them for a moment. They move slowly, almost imperceptibly. You feel the fabric of your robe against your skin. It has warmed slightly, holding the heat your body has created. It is not thick enough to block the cold entirely, but it offers a steady layer of protection that you have come to rely on without thinking. You draw it closer again. A small movement. Quiet. Necessary. You notice how your body responds to stillness over time. At first, there was awareness of every point of contact, every shift in balance. Now that awareness has softened, replaced by a more general sense of presence. You are here. That is enough. You lower your gaze once more. The floor before you reflects the faintest trace of light, creating a soft, uneven glow that fades quickly into shadow. It offers no detail, only suggestion. You let your focus rest there. A curious detail mentioned in some historical discussions is that extended periods of stillness could heighten sensitivity to small physical sensations, making individuals more aware of temperature, texture, and even subtle changes in their surroundings. You feel that now. Not as something unusual, but as something natural. You shift your weight slightly from one knee to the other. The change is small, but it brings a brief sense of relief, a redistribution of pressure that your body welcomes without drawing attention to itself. You settle again. Your breathing remains steady. The air feels cooler against your face now, though you're no longer reacting to it. It simply passes over you, part of the environment rather than something separate from it. You listen again. The room has not changed. Yet it feels deeper, more layered. The quiet has grown more complete, not because there is less sound, but because your awareness has expanded to include it all. You take another breath, then another. Time continues to move, though you no longer measure it in any clear way. It flows gently, carried by breath, by stillness, by the subtle rhythm that has settled into the space. Questions have been raised by some scholars about whether individuals in such environments experienced a different perception of time shaped by repetition, silence, and limited external cues. You do not consider the question directly. You experience it. The moment stretches. Not long, not short, simply full. You remain kneeling, your body steady, your mind quiet. The cold, the stone, the faint warmth beneath you, the distant candlelight, the shared breathing, all of it blends into a single continuous experience. Nothing stands apart. Everything belongs. And as you stay within that quiet blend, you begin to sense something subtle. The space is not only around you, it holds you, supports you, shapes you. You are no longer adjusting to it. You are part of it now. You remain kneeling for a while longer, though the sense of stillness begins to shift. Not abruptly, just enough that a subtle cue moves through the space, carried not by sound alone, but by the quiet awareness shared among those around you. Bodies begin to adjust. A hand moves, a shoulder lifts, a breath deepens. You follow, slowly. You rise from your knees, your body responding with a gentle resistance that fades as you straighten. The stone releases you without effort, its cool presence lingering briefly in your muscles before fading. You stand. The air meets you again, brushing lightly across your face, your hands, your neck. It feels cooler now, after the stillness more immediate, though not uncomfortable. You draw your robe closer. The fabric settles around you, holding what warmth it can as your body adjusts once more to movement. Around you others are rising, quietly, without coordination and that you can see yet somehow in harmony. Each figure moves with the same measured calm, the same absence of urgency, as though guided by something deeper than instruction. You take a step forward, then another. Your footsteps return to you, softly carried through the open space, though never loud enough to disturb the atmosphere that holds everything together. You begin to move towards the front of the space. The architecture becomes clearer as you approach the lines of the structure, revealing themselves more fully in the dim light. The arches stretch overhead, their shapes repeating in steady rhythm, drawing your gaze forward without demanding it. You slow. The candlelight gathers more densely ahead, forming a gentle focus point that stands out against the surrounding shadow. It is not bright, but it is enough to guide your attention. You approach it. The air here feels slightly warmer, though only by a small degree. The presence of more candles and perhaps more bodies gathered nearby creates a subtle shift that your skin notices before your mind does. You stop. Others stand beside you, their forms close enough now that you sense their presence more directly. The shared stillness returns, though it carries a different tone than before. More directed, more purposeful. A commonly accepted aspect of monastic life is the practice of night vigils, extended periods of prayer, held during the darkest hours where individuals remained awake to maintain spiritual discipline. You feel that now, not as effort, but as continuation. You lower your head slightly. Your gaze rests somewhere between the floor and the space ahead, soft and unfocused. Your hands remain within your sleeves, holding warmth, holding stillness. A sound begins, not a bell, not a voice raised loudly. Something softer, a low murmur of voices rising gently from those gathered, forming a collective sound that fills the space without overwhelming it. It moves slowly, each phrase carried with care, each tone blending into the next. You listen. The words are not meant to stand out individually. They form a pattern, a flow that carries meaning through rhythm as much as through language. You do not speak. Not yet. You remain within the sound, letting it pass through you, around you, shaping the space in a way that feels both shared and deeply personal. You take a breath, then release it. Your body begins to align with the rhythm once more, your breathing matching the slow rise and fall of the voices around you. A small detail sometimes noted is that collective chanting in such environments could create a calming effect not only through its spiritual meaning but through its steady, repetitive structure. You feel that, not as something separate, but as something you are already part of. You shift your weight slightly. The floor beneath you remains cool, though less noticeable now that your attention is drawn elsewhere. The sensation remains, but it fades into the background of the larger experience. The voices continue. Soft, even, carried upward into the vaulted space where they linger briefly, before returning as faint echoes that blend back into the sound itself. You raise your gaze slightly. The candlelight flickers, gently illuminating parts of the space, while leaving others in shadow. It creates a quiet contrast, a balance between light and darkness that feels intentional, though you know it is simply the result of placement and flame. You watch it for a moment, then let your focus soften again. Some scholars have questioned how individuals maintained attention during such long periods of repetition, suggesting that the rhythm itself may have guided awareness rather than requiring constant effort. You understand that now. You are not forcing your attention, you are moving with it. The sound continues. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the steady presence of those around you. It does not rise or fall dramatically. It remains consistent, a gentle current that carries everything forward. You become aware of time again, not in precise terms, but in the way moments pass within the rhythm, each phrase marking a quiet progression that you do not need to measure. You remain standing, your body steady, your hands still, your breath slow. The cold, the stone, the light, the sound, all of it blends into a single experience that feels both simple and complete. You take another breath, then another. The voices begin to soften, gradually, almost imperceptibly. The sound does not stop all at once. It eases phrase by phrase until what remains is a quiet echo that fades gently into the space. Silence returns, but it is not the same silence as before. It carries the memory of sound. You lower your head slightly once more. Your body remains still. The space holds you, and you understand something quietly. The night here is not empty time. It is filled with rhythm, with presence, with quiet purpose that unfolds without needing to be named. You remain where you are, breathing, listening, part of it. The silence settles again, but it feels different now, as though it carries a gentle echo of what has just passed. You remain standing, your posture steady, your breath slow. The space around you holds that quiet resonance, not as sound, but as memory that lingers just beneath awareness. Then gradually movement returns, a shift to your right, a slight turn ahead. The gathering begins to loosen, not all at once, but in small, careful motions. No one rushes. Each figure adjusts with the same measured calm that has shaped every moment of the night. You follow. You take a step back, then another. The floor beneath you feels cool again as your weight transfers through your feet. The warmth from stillness fades, replaced by the gentle return of motion. You turn slightly. The wider space begins to open behind you, the columns receding into shadow as you move away from the center. The candlelight grows more scattered, again less concentrated, guiding rather than holding your attention. You walk. Your steps fall into a quiet rhythm, familiar now, shaped by repetition rather than instruction. The path feels known even though you have not consciously memorized it. You pass between the columns. Their presence feels steady, unchanged, as though they have been waiting for this moment to unfold just as it always does. They do not direct you, yet they guide you all the same. You move towards the corridor. The air shifts again as you approach, becoming slightly more contained, less open than the larger space behind you. The change is subtle, but your skin notices it immediately. You step through the threshold. The corridor receives you with its familiar dimness. The candles here burn lower still, their flames small and steady, casting soft halos that barely reach beyond their immediate surroundings. You pause for a moment, listening. There is no chanting now. Only the quiet presence of others moving gently through the same space, their footsteps soft, their movements careful. You continue forward. Your breath becomes visible once more, faint and fleeting, dissolving quickly into the air. It reminds you of the cold beyond these walls even as you remain sheltered within them. You draw your robe closer. The fabric settles around you, holding what warmth remains, though you feel the difference now more clearly than before. The movement has cooled you slightly, drawing heat away from your stillness. You accept it. The corridor stretches ahead. You pass one candle, then another. The intervals of light and shadow feel longer. Now the darkness between them deeper, though not unsettling. Your eyes have adjusted well enough that you no longer rely on the light as much as you did earlier. You move with ease. A figure walks ahead of you, not close, but near enough that you can follow without intention. His pace is steady, his posture relaxed, his presence neither leading nor trailing, simply part of the shared movement that carries everyone forward. You keep your distance, not from avoidance, from understanding. A subtle aspect of monastic discipline involved maintaining personal space even within communal movement, allowing individuals to exist together without crowding one another. You follow the path. The corridor bends slightly, revealing a narrower passage ahead. The ceiling lowers and the air feels closer again, more contained, more familiar. You step into it. The sound of your footsteps softens further, absorbed by the enclosed space. The walls seem to draw closer, guiding your movement with quiet certainty. You reach out briefly. Your fingers brush the stone. Cool, smooth, steady. It grounds you. You let your you let your hand fall back at your side. The scent of the corridor shifts slightly here, carrying a faint trace of something warmer, perhaps from a nearby room where candles burn more steadily, or where bodies have gathered more closely. You breathe it in. It lingers gently, then fades. You continue. The figure ahead turns a corner and disappears from view. You follow a moment later, stepping into a slightly wider space that feels more open than the passage you have just left. You recognize it, not by memory, by feeling. The air, the light, the quiet arrangement of space. It is familiar in a way that does not require thought. You slow your steps. There is no need to hurry. The night continues at its own pace, and you move within it as part of that unfolding, neither ahead nor behind. You take another breath. The air fills your lungs with a cool steadiness, touched by the faint scent of wax and aged wood. It feels consistent now, something you no longer question or analyze. You simply experience it. A point occasionally raised in historical discussions is that Such environments encouraged a form of awareness grounded in repetition where the familiar became a source of calm rather than monotony. You understand that now. You feel it. You pass another doorway. The light within is dim, suggesting a space at rest, not in use at this moment. You do not pause. You continue allowing the structure of the monastery to guide you without hesitation. Your steps remain soft. Your breath remains steady. Your body moves without resistance. You notice how natural it has become. There is no longer any sense of uncertainty, no need to question where to go or what to do. The rhythm has settled into you, fully shaping your movements in quiet alignment with everything around you. You reach another turn. The corridor opens slightly, offering a glimpse of the dormitory beyond, though still distant, still partially hidden by shadow and the angle of the walls. You slow, not because you must, because it feels right. The night is not ending. Not yet, but it is shifting again. You sense it, in the way the air feels, in the way your body responds, in the quiet movement of others around you, each one returning, adjusting, continuing the cycle that has no clear beginning or end. You take another step, then another, and as you move forward, you carry with you the quiet weight of what has just passed, not as something separate, but as part of the night itself. You continue along the corridor, the dormitory slowly revealing itself ahead through soft shadow and dim light. The air shifts again as you draw closer. It feels slightly warmer, not by much, but enough. You notice it on your face first, then along your hands, as if the space ahead is holding on to the presence of those who have already returned. You take a steady breath. The scent changes with it. Wool, straw, a faint trace of something heavier, perhaps oil or tallow carried faintly from earlier rooms. It blends together into a quiet, familiar atmosphere that you begin to recognize without effort. You step into the dormitory. The transition is gentle. The larger silence of the corridor gives way to a more contained quiet, shaped by bodies at rest and the subtle movements that continue even in stillness. You pause just inside. The beds stretch before you once more, their shapes softened by low light. Some figures lie completely still. Others shift slightly beneath their coverings, their presence marked by small, careful movements. You begin to walk. Your steps are even softer here. The floor seems to absorb sound more fully. Or perhaps your awareness has grown more precise, guiding each movement with greater care. You move toward your place. It waits as you left it. Simple, unchanged. You sit down. The straw responds with that familiar dry whisper, a sound that has already become part of your experience of this space. It does not disturb the quiet, it belongs to it. You adjust your robe. The fabric settles around you, holding what warmth remains, though you feel the coolness returning now that you have stopped moving. You lie back slowly. The ceiling appears again above you, its lines faint, its form only partially visible in the dim light. You recognize it now not as something unfamiliar, but as part of the environment you have begun to understand. You exhale. Your breath rises softer than before, less visible as the air here holds a little more warmth than the corridors beyond. You close your eyes, then open them again. Sleep still waits. It does not arrive immediately. Your body is quieter now, your movements minimal, yet your awareness remains gently active, shaped by the details that continue to surround you. You listen. The sounds return. Soft breathing. A slight shift of weight nearby. The faint rustle of fabric as someone settles more deeply into rest. Nothing stands apart. Everything blends into a single continuous presence that fills the room without overwhelming it. An observation often made in historical reflections is that such shared sleeping spaces created a unique atmosphere where individual rest existed within a collective rhythm rather than in isolation. You feel that now, not as something imposed, but as something natural. You turn your head slightly. A nearby figure adjusts, then becomes still again. The movement is small, but in the quiet it carries a gentle awareness that others are here sharing the same space the same night. You let your gaze soften. There is no need to focus. You rest your hands against your chest once more. They feel warm again, the stiffness gone, replaced by a quiet ease that spreads gradually through your body. The warmth is not strong, but it is steady, held close by the layers of wool that surround you. You shift slightly. The straw responds, then settles, A small detail sometimes mentioned in historical accounts is that the scent of tallow from candles could linger in sleeping areas, carried in on clothing, or remaining in the air, adding to the layered smells of wool, straw, and enclosed space. You notice it now, faint, but present. It does not disturb you. It simply becomes part of the environment, something you accept without question. You close your eyes again. This time your awareness begins to soften more quickly. Your breathing slows, your body grows heavier against the bedding, sinking slightly into the straw as your muscles release the last of their tension. You feel the coolness at the edges of your body, your hands, your face, your feet, but it no longer demands your attention. It fades into the background part of the larger experience rather than something separate. You take another breath, then another. Your thoughts begin to drift, not in clear directions, just gently. A quiet reflection, sometimes raised in scholarly discussion, is how such environments may have shaped the experience of rest, where sleep emerged gradually from stillness rather than arriving suddenly. You do not think about it directly. You experience it. Your awareness narrows, not sharply, but softly. The sounds around you become more distant, though they do not disappear. The presence of others remains, but it fades into a gentle background that no longer requires your attention. You remain, breathing, resting, letting go. The ceiling above you becomes less defined, its lines dissolving into darkness as your eyes remain closed. The light from the candles fades from your awareness, leaving only a sense of dimness that surrounds you without form. Your body continues to settle, deeper, heavier, more at ease. The night holds you now in a different way. Not through movement, not through structure, but through stillness. You take one more slow breath, and you begin to drift. You drift for a time that does not feel clearly measured. Sleep comes in layers here, not all at once. You rest, then stir, then rest again, each stage blending into the next without sharp edges. Your body relaxes, yet never fully forgets the environment around you. A faint sound pulls you gently upward, not enough to wake you completely. Just enough to shift your awareness. You remain lying still, your eyes closed, your breath slow. The sound fades, perhaps it was someone turning nearby or the soft movement of straw adjusting beneath weight. It does not matter. It passes without leaving a clear trace. You settle again, your body grows heavier. The warmth beneath your robe held close steady, protected from the cooler air beyond it. Your hands rest where you left them, still relaxed, no longer stiff. Then another small shift. You become aware of your position. Your shoulder presses slightly against the firmness beneath you. Your hip rests unevenly, reminding you of the simple nature of the bedding. It does not conform to you. You adjust, carefully. The straw responds with a muted rustle, then stills. The change is small, but enough to bring a brief sense of ease to your body. You remain on your side now. Your robe gathers differently around you, folding and settling in new ways that trap warmth more effectively along your chest and arms. You breathe in. The air feels slightly cooler at your face, though the difference is subtle. It moves gently, not from a draft, but from the shared breathing of the room, the quiet exchange of warmth and air among those resting together. You exhale. Your breath blends into that rhythm. An often noted feature of such communal sleeping spaces is how airflow remained minimal, creating an environment where warmth could accumulate slightly, though never enough to fully dispel the cold. You feel that balance, warmth held close, coolness at the edges. You drift again, not deeply, just enough. Time softens. Your awareness fades, then returns in quiet cycles, each one gentler than the last. There is no clear boundary between waking and sleeping, only a gradual easing into rest. A distant sound reaches you. Faint, unclear. It might be the structure settling again or a movement somewhere beyond the dormitory. It does not rise enough to fully wake you. You remain where you are. Still, your body continues to relax. Your muscles release their remaining tension one small area at a time. Your shoulders soften, your back eases, your legs settle more fully into stillness. You take another breath, then another. The scents of the room linger around you. Wool, straw, a faint trace of wax. They blend into a quiet familiarity that no longer draws your attention. They simply exist, part of the space that holds you. A curious observation mentioned in some historical discussions is that repeated exposure to such environments could make individuals less sensitive to discomfort as the body adapted to simplicity over time. You begin to understand that. The bedding does not feel softer. The room has not grown warmer, yet your body accepts it more easily now. You shift once more, very slightly. The straw answers, then quiets again. The movement does not disturb those around you. It is absorbed into the shared stillness, unnoticed, unremarked. You settle again. Your breathing remains steady, slow, even. The sounds around you continue in their gentle pattern. A faint movement here, a soft breath there, the quiet presence of others resting in the same space. Nothing stands apart. Everything belongs. You drift again, this time deeper. Your awareness narrows further, your thoughts fading into something less defined, less structured. You are no longer observing each sensation as clearly. You are simply experiencing them as part of a whole. The ceiling above you no longer exists in your awareness. The candlelight fades completely from your perception. Only the feeling remains. The warmth close to your body, the cool air brushing lightly against your face, the steady rhythm of breath. Your body sinks a little further into the bedding, not physically, but in sensation, as though you are becoming part of the stillness rather than resting within it. You take another slow breath, then another. A question sometimes raised in historical interpretation is whether individuals in such settings experience sleep as lighter and more fragmented compared to modern expectations. You do not consider the question. You live the answer. Your sleep is not uninterrupted. It is layered, gentle, responsive. You drift, return, drift again, each cycle softer than the last. The night continues around you, unchanged, unhurried. The dormitory holds its quiet rhythm, each person resting within the same shared environment, each body adjusting in small, almost invisible ways. You remain, breathing, resting, letting go further. And as you settle more deeply into that quiet state, you begin to sense something subtle. Sleep here is not an escape. It is a continuation, a quieter form of being within the same space, the same cold, the same stillness that has shaped every moment of the night. You take one more slow breath, and you drift again. You drift deeper now, your awareness loosening its hold on the small details that once defined the room around you. Sleep comes more steadily, not complete, but closer. Your breathing remains slow, even shaped by the quiet rhythm that surrounds you. The presence of others fades into a softer background, no longer something you notice directly. Then gently something shifts. A thought, a feeling, not fully formed. You are no longer entirely within the room. Images begin to gather, faint at first, unclear. They rise from the same stillness that has carried you into rest, shaped by memory, by routine, by the subtle impressions of the night. You walk again, not with your body, with your mind. The cloister appears, though not as it was before. The arches seem taller now, the shadows deeper, the light softer. The space feels familiar yet altered in quiet ways that you do not question. You move through it. Your steps make no sound. You barely breathe out. No trace of us. The cold is present, but distant, softened, as though it no longer belongs to the same world. Dream and memory begin to blend. You notice a candle. Its flame burns steadily, yet it does not flicker. It holds its shape perfectly, casting light that does not fade, that does not shift. It feels different, yet you accept it without thought. You reach out. Your hand passes through the light. It leaves no warmth. You continue walking. The space changes again. The corridor stretches longer than before, its walls extending beyond what you remember. The doors along its sides remain closed, their surfaces smooth, untouched, as though waiting. You pause. A sound reaches you. Soft, distant, not quite real. It resembles the murmur of voices, though you cannot distinguish words. It rises and falls in a gentle pattern, familiar in its rhythm, though not in its meaning. You listen. The sound surrounds you, then fades. You move again. The dream shifts. You find yourself standing within the larger chamber once more, though it feels different now. The columns seem wider apart, the ceiling higher, the darkness deeper and more complete. The candlelight glows faintly at the edges. It does not reach the center. You stand within that center, alone, Or perhaps not. A subtle observation found in some reflections on monastic life suggests that dreams during periods of strict routine often echo the structures of daily experience, reshaping familiar spaces into new forms. You feel that now. The space is known, yet changed. You take a step. The floor beneath you feels softer, though you know it should not. It yields slightly, as though it is no longer stone, but something quieter, something less defined. You do not question it. You continue. The shadows move, not with light. With their own quiet motion, they stretch, then gather, forming shapes that almost resemble figures, though never clearly enough to define. You watch them. They do not approach. They do not retreat. They simply exist. You take another step. The space shifts again. You are no longer inside. Or perhaps you are. The boundary is unclear. Snow appears beyond the arches, pale, and still covering the courtyard in a quiet layer that reflects a faint distant light. It does not fall. It rests. You move toward it. Your steps leave no marks. The cold is present again, but softer, as though filtered through something unseen. It touches your face, your hands, yet does not settle into you as it did before. You pause. The sky above is dark, yet not empty. It holds a faint glow, a suggestion of light that never fully forms. You breathe in. The air feels lighter, different. A question sometimes explored in scholarly writing is whether the mental landscape of individuals living in such enclosed, repetitive environments influence the nature of their dreams, shaping them with familiar structures and sensations. You do not consider this. You experience it. The courtyard shifts. The snow fades. The arches dissolve. You are moving again through space that does not remain still long enough to be understood. The dormitory returns, or something like it. The beds are there, but they are arranged differently. The figures resting upon them are present, yet indistinct, their forms softened, blurred, as though seen through a thin veil. You stand beside your bed. You look down. You see yourself, still, resting, breathing. The sight does not disturb you. It feels natural. You watch for a moment, then the image fades. The space softens again. The boundaries dissolve. You feel yourself returning. Not quickly, not suddenly, just gradually. The warmth of your robe, the firmness of the bedding, the faint scent of wool and straw. They begin to reappear in your awareness, replacing the shifting images of the dream. Your breathing remains steady. Your body lies still. You're both within the dream and beyond it, moving between states without clear separation. You take another breath. The dream loosens its hold. The images fade. The quiet presence of the dormitory returns more fully, though softened, as though seen from a distance. You remain still, your eyes closed, your body resting, and as the dream dissolves completely, you settle once more into the gentle rhythm of sleep, carried quietly by the same stillness that shaped the night from the beginning. A faint stirring reaches you long before you fully wake. It is not a sound at first, more a shift in the air, a quiet change in the shared rhythm of the room that touches your awareness gently, like a ripple spreading across still water. You remain lying still, your eyes closed, your breath slow. Then gradually a sound forms, soft, measured, a distant bell. It arrives differently than before, quieter, as though carried through thicker layers of night. Each tone lingers a little longer, stretching into the stillness before fading. You hear it, not fully awake, but aware. Your body responds before your thoughts do. A subtle tightening, a slight shift, the slow return of readiness. You open your eyes. The ceiling appears again faint and distant in the dim light. The lines of the beams are softer now, less defined, as though the night itself has grown heavier around them. You blink once, then again. The bell continues, each tone spaced carefully, creating a rhythm that does not rush you, yet does not allow you to remain where you are indefinitely. You take a breath. The air feels cooler again at your face, sharper than before, as though the room has lost some of the warmth it held earlier. You sit up slowly. Your body resists at first, weighed down by rest, by stillness, by the softness of sleep that has not fully released you yet. You move through it. Your shoulders lift. Your back straightens. Your feet find the floor. The stone greets you once more with its quiet cold. You pause, letting the sensation settle. Around you others are beginning to move. Not all at once, not in unison. but in a shared pattern that unfolds gently across the room. A figure sits upright, another shifts to the side, a third draws their robe closer before rising. No voices, only movement. You stand. The air brushes against you, cooler now, more present, reminding you that the night has not yet loosened its hold. Your robe feels heavier for a moment, then settles as you adjust it around your shoulders. You draw it close. Your hands disappear within its folds, holding onto the warmth that remains. The bell continues. It guides you. Again, not sharply, but clearly. A familiar understanding surfaces within you, shaped by repetition rather than thought. This is the hour before dawn, the time set aside for prayer that interrupts sleep, calling you back into the rhythm of the night. You take a step forward, then another. The straw beneath your bed shifts faintly as you leave it behind. The room opens slightly as others rise, the still forms replaced by quiet movement that fills the space without disturbing it. You walk toward the doorway. Your steps are careful, guided by the same awareness that has shaped every movement here. The candlelight remains low, its glow softer now, its presence more fragile. You pass through the threshold. The corridor receives you once more. Cool, dim, familiar. Your breath appears again, drifting gently before fading into the air. It feels more visible now, as though the cold has deepened during your rest. You take a slow breath, then another. The scent of the corridor remains unchanged, though it feels sharper now, clearer as your senses wake more fully. Wax stone and the faint trace of something older, something settled deep into the walls. You begin to walk. The bell continues. Its tone moves with you, shifting as you pass through the corridor, sometimes clearer, sometimes softer, but never absent. You follow. Your body remembers the path, the turns, the changes in space. You move without hesitation, guided by something quieter than thought. A point sometimes raised in historical analysis is that these nightly awakenings formed a central part of monastic discipline, shaping not only the schedule but the experience of time itself, dividing the night into purposeful segments. You feel that division now. The night is no longer a single stretch. It is layered. You pass one candle, then another. The intervals of light and shadow feel deeper now, as though the darkness between them has grown more complete. Your eyes adjust quickly, no longer searching, simply receiving. You turn a corner. A figure moves ahead of you, his steps steady, his posture relaxed, though touched by the same quiet weight of interrupted rest. You follow at a distance, your pace naturally aligning with his. No words pass between you. None are needed. The bell continues. You reach the wider passage. The air opens slightly, carrying the sound more clearly now. It feels closer, more immediate, as though you are moving toward its source. You take another step, then another. Your body feels both rested and heavy, caught between the softness of sleep and the quiet demand of movement. It responds without resistance, though not without awareness. You reach the doorway. It stands open. The larger space beyond waits, filled with dim light and quiet presence. The columns rise again into shadow, the ceiling stretching upward beyond what you can fully see. You pause, just for a moment. The bell sounds once more, then softens. You step inside. The air shifts, cooler, more open. The space holds you again, just as it did before, though. Now it feels different, shaped by the deeper hour, by the lingering weight of night. You move forward. Others gather. The rhythm returns, and as you take your place once more within that quiet order, you feel the night continuing, not as something that was interrupted, but as something that has simply changed form. You move further into the space, your steps quiet, your breath steady, your body still carrying the softness of interrupted sleep. The room feels deeper now, not larger, just heavier. With the hour, the darkness seems more settled, as though it has reached its fullest point before yielding to anything else. The candlelight appears smaller against it, each flame holding its place without attempting to overcome the shadow. You take your position, near where you stood before. Your body remembers the place, the spacing, the quiet distance between yourself and those beside you. You lower your head slightly, your hands resting within your sleeves, your posture balanced between stillness and awareness. The air touches your face. Cool, steady. It feels sharper now than earlier, as if the cold has gathered strength during the deeper hours of the night. It settles along your skin without urgency, simply present, simply part of where you are. You take a breath, then release it. Your breath appears faintly again, though less clearly here, dissolving quickly into the wider space. A subtle shift passes through those around you. Someone adjusts their stance. Another inclines their head. The movement spreads quietly like a shared understanding moving through the room without words. You follow. Your posture settles more fully. The stillness returns, yet something else moves within it. A presence, not visible, but felt. You listen. There is no immediate sound, yet the room does not feel silent. It carries a quiet tension, not uncomfortable, but attentive, as though something's about to begin. Then slowly it does. A voice, soft, low. It rises from somewhere within the space, not loud enough to dominate, but clear enough to shape the moment. It begins alone, steady and measured, each word carried with care. You listen. The sound moves through the air, touching the stone, the columns, the bodies gathered here. It does not rush, it unfolds. Others join, not all at once, gradually. Each voice centers, gently blending into the whole, forming a layered sound that fills the space without overwhelming it. You feel it, not just as sound, but as movement. It flows around you, through you, shaping the stillness into something more defined, more focused. You remain quiet for a moment, then softly you join. Your voice is low, almost indistinguishable from those around you. Yet it becomes part of the shared rhythm. The words pass through you without effort, familiar, repeated so often that they no longer require thought. They simply are. An observation sometimes made in historical reflections is that such communal recitations were not only acts of devotion, but also practices that reinforced memory and unity through repetition and shared voice. You feel that now, not as an idea, but as experience. Your breath aligns with the rhythm of the words. In, out. Each phrase carried on that steady movement, each pause resting gently before the next begins. You become aware of the space again. The columns stand unchanged. The candlelight flickers faintly at the edges. The darkness remains deep, though no longer empty. Everything holds its place. You shift your weight slightly, a small movement, barely noticeable. The stone beneath your feet remains cool, though your body has adjusted to it once more. The sensation is present, but it no longer draws your attention away from the rhythm of the moment. The voices continue. Steady. Even they rise and fall in gentle patterns, never sharp, never abrupt. The sound fills the space, then settles, then rises again like a quiet tide that moves without force. You raise your gaze slightly. The candle flames appear smaller now, their light softer, their movement slower. They respond to the air, bending slightly, then returning to stillness. You watch them briefly, then return your focus. Some reflections suggest that prolonged exposure to such low light conditions may have influenced how individuals perceived space and movement, making subtle shifts more noticeable while larger forms receded into shadow. You sense that. The edges of the room feel distant. The center feels closer. The space holds a quiet balance between what is seen and what is felt. You continue. Your voice remains low. Your breathing steady. The rhythm carries you forward not through distance, but through time, marking moments in a way that does not require counting. You feel your body settle further. The initial heaviness of waking has softened. The tension has eased. You are no longer caught between sleep and wakefulness. You are here, fully. The sound begins to change. Not suddenly, gradually. The voices soften. The phrases lengthen slightly. The pauses deepen. It feels as though the space itself is exhaling, releasing something that has been held quietly within it. You follow. Your voice lowers, then stills. The sound fades. Not all at once. One voice, then another, until what remains is a faint echo that lingers briefly before dissolving into the stone. Silence returns, yet it is not empty. It carries the shape of what was just spoken. You lower your head slightly once more. Your hands remain within your sleeves. Your body still. The space holds you again. The cold, the light, the quiet. All of it remains unchanged, yet somehow different, shaped by the moment that has just passed. You take a slow breath, then another, and as you stand there within that deep and settled stillness, you begin to feel the night reaching its quiet turning point, not yet ending, but gently preparing for what comes next. You remain standing, as the silence settles again deeper now, as though the night has reached its most quiet point. Nothing moves for a moment, then slowly the stillness begins to shift, not outwardly. Within you, you feel it first in your body. A faint heaviness returns to your limbs, not unpleasant but noticeable, as though the earlier rest has not fully released its hold. Your shoulders carry a gentle weight. Your legs feel steady yet slightly slower to respond. You take a breath. The air feels cooler than before, not sharply cold, just clearer. It touches your face with a quiet firmness, reminding you that the warmth of earlier hours has faded slightly as the night deepened. You draw your robe closer. The wool gathers around you, holding what warmth remains. You feel its texture more clearly now, the roughness softened by wear, the thickness shaped by purpose rather than comfort. You shift your weight, a small movement. The stone beneath your feet responds with its steady coolness, unchanged, unaffected by the passing of time or the presence of those who stand upon it. You listen. There is no voice now, no shared sound, only the quiet presence of others, each one still, each one part of the same moment without needing to move or speak. Your breath slows further. In, out! The rhythm continues. A detail sometimes noted in accounts of monastic life is how the body itself became part of the discipline, shaped by repeated patterns of waking, standing, kneeling and resting, especially during the colder months when physical strain was more noticeable. You feel that now, not as effort, but as awareness. Your body is present in a way that feels clear, grounded, steady. You raise your gaze slightly. The space remains dim, the candlelight faint and distant, casting only the softest suggestion of form across the columns and walls. The darkness feels complete, yet not oppressive. It holds rather than presses. You notice a figure nearby. He stands very still, his posture relaxed yet attentive, his breath slow and even. There is no sign of discomfort in him, though you know the cold must touch him just as it touches you. You look away, not out of avoidance, out of understanding. Each person remains within their own quiet space, even while sharing the same environment. A subtle point raised in some historical interpretations suggests that physical hardships such as exposure to cold may have been understood not merely as discomfort, but as part of a broader spiritual discipline. You sense that possibility, not as belief, but as presence. You take another breath. The air feels slightly drier now, less softened by warmth or movement. It carries the faint scent of stone more strongly, with only a trace of wax remaining. You notice how your body responds. Your hands remain within your sleeves, holding warmth where they can. Your face feels cooler, your breath steady, your posture balanced. There is no urgency, no need to change. You remain as you are. A faint sensation draws your attention, a small stiffness in your fingers, a subtle tension in your shoulders. Nothing significant, just enough to remind you of the conditions around you. You shift slightly. The movement is minimal, almost invisible, yet it brings a quiet sense of adjustment that your body accepts without thought. You settle again. The stillness returns. The night holds its shape. Some reflections in historical study suggest that the endurance required during such long winter nights could vary greatly between individuals influenced by age, health, and personal resilience, though such differences were rarely recorded in detail. You feel your own experience, simple, immediate. You're neither struggling nor entirely at ease. You exist within a balance. The cold remains. The warmth remains. The quiet continues. You take another breath, then another. Time feels slower now, not in a way that drags, in a way that expands. Each moment holds more space, more presence, more awareness than before. You lower your gaze once more. The floor reflects the faintest trace of light, just enough to suggest its surface without revealing detail. It remains steady, unchanged, a constant beneath everything that unfolds. You focus on it briefly, then let your attention soften again. Your body grows more accustomed to the stillness. The earlier heaviness fades slightly, replaced by a steadier form of awareness that does not require effort to maintain. You stand quiet, present. The space around you feels complete, as though nothing more needs to be added. Nothing more needs to happen for the moment to hold its meaning. You take a final slow breath, and within that breath you begin to sense something subtle, a shift that has not yet fully formed. The night has reached its deepest point, and from that depth something will begin to change. You remain where you are, yet the feeling of the space begins to change in a way that is almost too subtle to name. It does not arrive as sound. Not at first. It comes as a lightness, a slight easing in the air as though something distant has shifted something beyond the walls that you cannot see. The darkness remains, but it feels less absolute than it did before. You take a breath. The air is still cool, still steady, yet it carries a faint difference that touches your awareness without fully explaining itself. You lift your gaze. The candles continue to burn, their small flames steady, their light unchanged. Yet the shadows they cast feel softer, less defined, as if the edges of the night have begun to loosen. You notice it, then let it settle. A quiet movement begins among those around you. Not coordinated, not announced. Just a gentle return of motion as bodies adjust, as attention shifts, as the long stillness begins to ease. No one rushes. Each movement remains careful, measured, shaped by the same discipline that has guided every moment so far. You shift your weight. The stone beneath your feet remains cool, though it no longer feels as sharp as it did earlier. Your body has adjusted, or perhaps the sensation itself has softened. You take a step, then another. The space opens again as you move the columns, passing slowly beside you, their presence steady and unchanged. The sound of your steps returns faint and controlled, carried upward into the quiet above. You begin to move towards the edge of the room. Others do the same. Not together, yet not separate. Each figure follows the same unspoken path, guided by something deeper than instruction, something learned through repetition, through countless nights shaped in the same way. You reach the boundary of the space. The corridor waits. Dim. Familiar. You pause briefly at the threshold. The air shifts again as you stand between spaces cooler in the corridor, slightly held within the chamber behind you. You step forward. Your breath becomes visible once more, drifting gently before fading into the air. It feels lighter now, less heavy, though the cold remains present. You begin to walk. The corridor stretches ahead, marked by low candles whose flames burn quietly, their light soft and contained. The darkness between them feels less dense now, though still deep. You move through it. Your steps fall into a rhythm that feels effortless, shaped by the night itself rather than by conscious thought. You do not question where you are going. You simply follow. A subtle detail sometimes noted in historical reflections is that early morning transitions were often sensed before they were seen through changes in temperature, light, or even the behavior of those within the space. You feel that now. The shift is not visible, yet it is undeniable. You pass a corner. The corridor bends, revealing a slightly wider passage ahead. The air feels more open here, carrying with it a faint clarity that was not present before. You take a breath. It feels different, cleaner, not warmer, but lighter. You continue. A figure walks ahead of you, his pace steady, his posture relaxed, though touched by the quiet weight of the long night. You follow at a distance, your steps aligning naturally with his. No words pass between you. None are needed. The silence remains, yet it feels different now, less complete, as though it is beginning to give way to something else. You reach another turn. The passage opens slightly, offering a glimpse of the cloister beyond. The space appears faintly brighter, though not enough to fully reveal its details. You slow. Your body responds to the change without effort, your pace adjusting naturally as your awareness sharpens. You take another step, then another. The cloister comes into view. The arches stand as before, their forms steady, their presence unchanged. Yet the space beyond them holds a faint suggestion of light that was not there earlier. It is subtle, almost imagined. You pause, looking. The sky beyond the open courtyard is still dark, yet it carries a hint of something softer, a barely visible shift that suggests the night is beginning to loosen its hold. You feel it, not as sight, as presence. A question sometimes explored in historical interpretation is how individuals perceived the transition between night and morning in environments with minimal artificial light, where even the smallest change could feel significant. You understand that now. The difference is slight, yet it carries weight. You step into the cloister. The air meets you. Cool, open. The cold feels clearer here, less contained by walls, more connected to the world beyond. It touches your face with a quiet sharpness that wakes your senses gently. You take a breath. It fills your lungs with a crisp clarity that feels different from the enclosed spaces behind you. You move along the cloister walk. Your steps echo softly carried outward into the open space before returning to you in faint reflections. The sound feels lighter now, less absorbed, more free. You continue. The faint light grows, not quickly, but steadily. It does not illuminate the space fully yet. It softens the darkness enough that shapes become more defined edges, more visible, the world around you slightly clearer. You notice it, then accept it. The night is changing, and you are moving with it. You continue along the cloister, your steps slow, your breath steady, your awareness gently sharpening with each moment. The air feels clearer here, cooler, more open. It moves across your face with a quiet freshness that was not present within the enclosed spaces. You notice how it fills your lungs more easily, carrying with it a faint hint of the world beyond the monastery walls. You take another breath. The cold touches deeper now, not harsh, but distinct, as though the night has thinned enough to let something new begin. You walk beside the open courtyard. The ground within it is pale, covered in a thin layer of frost or snow that reflects what little light has begun to gather in the sky. It does not shine brightly. It glows softly, offering a quiet contrast to the darker stone around it. You pause, looking outward. The sky remains mostly dark, yet it is no longer the same darkness as before. There is a faint lifting at its edges, a suggestion of light that does not yet reveal itself fully. You notice it, then breathe again. Your breath appears briefly in the air, though it fades more quickly now, as if the atmosphere itself has shifted, becoming slightly less dense. You continue walking. The arches guide your movement, their rhythm steady, their presence unchanged, yet the space between them feels different, less closed, more connected to what lies beyond. You pass one column, then another. Each step carries you forward into a quiet transition that unfolds without urgency. A detail often discussed in studies of monastic environments is how the cloister served as a boundary between the inner life of the monastery and the outer world, offering a space where both could be sensed at once. You feel that now. The walls behind you, the open air beside you. You exist between them. You move again. The light continues to grow, not in a brightness, in softness. The shapes of the courtyard become clearer, the edges of the stone more defined, the contrast between light and shadow less severe. It is a gradual change, one that requires patience to fully notice. You slow your steps. There is no need to hurry. The moment expands gently, offering itself without demand. You rest your hand briefly against one of the columns. The stone feels cold, though not as sharp as before. It carries a faint, almost hidden trace of warmth, perhaps from the previous day, perhaps from the structure itself holding on to what little it can. You feel it, then release it. You continue. The air carries a new scent now, very faint, difficult to name. It is not the enclosed mixture of wax and wool you have grown used to. It is lighter, cleaner, touched by the outside. Perhaps it carries the scent of frost or distant earth beneath the snow. It lingers, then fades. You breathe again. Your body responds. Your chest rises more easily. Your shoulders relax slightly. Your movements feel lighter, as though the transition of the night is affecting you as much as the space around you. A quiet observation sometimes made in historical interpretation is that those living within such routines may have become highly attuned to these subtle environmental changes, noticing shifts that others might overlook. You understand that now. The change is small, yet it feels significant. You reach the far end of the cloister. The passage turns. You follow. The angle reveals another view of the courtyard, this one catching slightly more of the growing light. The pale ground reflects it softly, creating a gentle glow that spreads across the stone. You pause again. Looking, the sky above is still dark, yet its depth has softened. It no longer feels endless. It feels closer, more present, as though something is beginning to rise beyond it. You take a slow breath, then another. The cold remains. The stillness remains, yet both feel altered. You begin to walk again. Your steps echo softly lighter, now less contained, carried outward, before returning to you in faint reflections. The sound feels less enclosed, more open, as though the space itself has expanded. You move along the final stretch of the cloister. The arches pass beside you in steady rhythm, their shadows no longer as deep, their forms more clearly defined. The light continues to grow, though it does not yet dominate. It suggests, it hints. You reach the point where the cloister connects back toward the inner corridors. You pause there. Between spaces, behind you the courtyard holds its quiet glow, its pale surface reflecting the early light. Ahead, the corridors remain dim still, shaped by candlelight and shadow. You stand between them. You feel both. The enclosed warmth of stone, the open clarity of morning beginning. A reflection sometimes explored in historical writing considers how such transitions may have shaped the emotional experience of those within monastic life, marking the passage of time not through clocks but through sensation. You feel that passage now, not as a measurement, as a shift. You take one more breath. The air fills you. Cool. Clear. You step forward, back toward the interior, carrying with you the subtle change that has begun outside, even as the monastery continues to hold its quiet rhythm within. And as you move, you sense that the night is no longer complete. It is giving way, slowly, gently, without resistance. You step back into the corridor, carrying the faint clarity of the cloister air with you. It lingers for a moment, then softens. The enclosed space receives you again, its dim light and familiar stillness settling around your senses. Yet something has changed. The corridor no longer feels as closed as it did before. The darkness seems thinner, less complete. You walk forward. Your steps remain quiet, guided by the rhythm that has shaped the entire night. The candles along the wall burn low, their flames smaller now, their light softer as if they too are nearing the end of their long vigil. You pass one, then another. The shadows between them no longer feel as deep. Your eyes adjust quickly, no longer searching, simply receiving what is there. You take a breath. The air feels steadier now, less heavy, touched by the faint influence of the outside. It moves through you more easily, carrying a subtle freshness that was not present earlier. You continue. A figure walks ahead of you, not close, not far. His pace matches yours without intention, each step falling into the same quiet rhythm. You follow at a distance, your movements naturally aligned, neither leading nor trailing. No words pass between you. The silence holds, yet it feels lighter now. You reach a turn. The corridor bends, revealing a broader passage ahead, one that leads toward the inner spaces you have already come to know. The air shifts slightly as you enter it, warmer than the cloister, though still touched by the coolness of the night. You slow your pace, not because you must, because something within you recognizes the change. A reflection often explored in studies of monastic life suggests that the return toward morning spaces carried a different quality of awareness shaped by the transition from night into day even before light fully arrived. You feel that. The night has not ended, but it has changed. You move forward. The passage opens further, revealing a familiar doorway ahead. The light within it is faint, though steadier than the corridor candles. It suggests a space already awake, or perhaps preparing to be. You approach. Your hand brushes lightly against the stone as you pass, feeling its cool steadiness one more time. The texture remains unchanged, yet your perception of it has softened. You no longer react. You simply notice. You step through the doorway. The room within is quiet, empty for now. The benches remain where they were, the candles placed carefully along the walls, their flames steady, their light calm and contained. The air feels slightly warmer here though, still cool enough to remind you of the hour. You pause, looking. The space feels different than before. Not because it has changed, because you have. You move slowly along the wall. Your steps are soft, absorbed by the worn floor. The room holds your presence without resistance, as though it has been waiting not for you specifically, but for this moment in the rhythm of the day. You sit. The bench feels as it did earlier, firm, simple, steady. It offers no comfort beyond what is necessary, yet it supports you without question. You rest your hands within your sleeves. The warmth returns, gradually drawn from your own body, held close by the layers of wool. The air brushes against your face, cooler than your hands, though no longer sharp. You take a breath. The scent here is familiar. Wax, wood, a faint trace of something older settled into the space through time and use. It does not change, yet it feels softer now, A small detail sometimes mentioned in historical observation is that as dawn approached, the quality of light even before sunrise could alter how enclosed spaces were perceived, making them feel less confined. You sense that. The room does not feel larger, but it feels more open. You sit in stillness. Your body no longer carries the same weight as before. The heaviness of deep night has eased, replaced by a quiet alertness that does not disturb your calm. You breathe in, then out. Your awareness sharpens slightly, though it remains gentle, unforced. You notice the small details again, the flicker of flame, the texture of wood, the quiet arrangement of space. Nothing demands your attention. Everything offers itself. You remain there for a time, unmeasured. The light continues to shift, not visibly, but perceptibly. The darkness outside softens further, and with it the subtle tone of the room changes, becoming lighter though not yet bright. You feel it, a transition, not marked by sound, not defined by a moment, but present all the same. You take another breath. Your body feels ready, not active, not restless, simply prepared. The night has carried you through its depth, through its stillness, through its quiet structure. Now it begins to release you gently without urgency. You remain seated, your hands still, your breath steady. And within that calm, you begin to sense the final shift approaching, the moment when the night gives way completely, not through sudden change, but through quiet continuation into something new. You remain seated for a moment longer, allowing the quiet to settle one final time. The room feels lighter now, not brighter, just less held by the night. You notice it in the air first, a gentle easing, as though the space itself has released something it carried through the darker hours. The candles still burn their flames steady, but their presence no longer defines everything around you. You take a slow breath. The scent remains familiar, yet softer, less concentrated. The air moves more freely now, carrying with it a faint trace of something beyond the walls. You rise. Your body responds without resistance. The heaviness of the night has lifted, replaced by a calm readiness that feels natural, unforced. Your robe settles around you. Its weight familiar, its warmth steady, though no longer as necessary as before. You take a step, then another. The floor beneath you feels the same cool and solid, yet your awareness of it has changed. It no longer anchors you in the same way. It supports you as you move forward. You walk toward the doorway. The corridor beyond waits dim, but softened its shadows no longer as deep. The candles along its length burn low, nearing the end of their use, their light quiet and gentle. You step into it. Your breath appears only faintly now, dissolving almost immediately into the air. The cold has eased, not entirely, but enough that it no longer defines your movement. You continue. Your steps fall into a rhythm that feels both familiar and new. The path is the same, yet the moment is different. The night has carried you through its full depth, and now something else begins to take its place. You reach the cloister. The arches open before you, framing the courtyard where the first true light of morning has begun to gather. It is still soft, still pale, but unmistakable now. You pause, looking outward. The ground reflects the light gently, the frost or snow catching it in a way that brightens the space without overwhelming it. The sky has shifted, no longer dark, but not yet fully bright, holding a quiet balance between night and day. You take a breath. The air feels clearer, fresher. It fills your lungs with a calm that is different from the stillness of the night. It carries a movement possibility, a subtle sense of beginning. You step into the cloister walk. Your footsteps echo softly lighter now, less contained, carried outward into the open space before returning in faint reflection. The sound feels freer, less held by shadow. You walk slowly. There is no need to hurry. The moment stretches, gently offering itself without demand. A reflection often found in historical accounts is that the transition from night prayer to morning activity marked not an end, but a continuation where the quiet discipline of the night flowed naturally into the tasks of the day. You feel that. The night has not ended. It has transformed. You move along the cloister. The columns pass beside you, their forms clearer now, their surfaces catching the early light into soft, uneven ways. The shadows they cast are lighter, less defined, no longer dominant. You notice the details more easily, the texture of stone, the subtle variations in the floor, the quiet presence of space that no longer feels closed. You reach the far side. You pause again. The monastery behind you remains calm, its corridors still dim, its rooms still holding the last traces of night. Ahead, the courtyard opens, touched by growing light that continues to spread slowly, steadily. You stand between them, between what has been and what is beginning. You take one more slow breath. The air moves through you. Cool, clear, alive in a quiet way. You close your eyes briefly, not to sleep, to feel the night within you, the stillness, the rhythm. Then you open them again. The light has grown just slightly. Enough! You turn. You begin to move back inside, carrying the calm of the night with you, not as something separate, but as part of what continues. And as your steps carry you forward into the quiet unfolding of morning, the world around you softens once more, not into darkness this time, but into something gentle, something steady, something at ease. You walk, you breathe, you continue. The monastery wakes slowly, though never fully breaking the calm it has held through the long winter night, and you remain within that calm, held, steady, at rest even as the day begins. You take another breath, then let it go. The light grows, the silence softens, everything continues. You are here, and it is enough. Now as the morning settles gently around you, you allow your pace to slow even further. There is nothing left to follow, no bell calling you forward. No movement required, only this quiet space between moments where the last traces of night and the first signs of day rest together without urgency. You breathe in. The air feels lighter now, carrying a soft clarity that touches your senses without overwhelming them. It moves through you easily, leaving behind a sense of calm that lingers. You stand still. Your body no longer holds tension. Your thoughts have softened into something quiet, something distant, as though they too are resting. The light continues to grow, slowly, gently. It does not rush, it does not demand, it simply arrives. The stone beneath your feet feels steady, familiar, no longer cold in the same way it was before. It supports you without drawing attention, part of the quiet foundation that holds everything in place. You take another breath, then another, each one slower than the last. The world around you fades slightly. Not disappearing, but softening as though it is stepping back to give you space to rest. You close your eyes. The light remains. The calm remains. Everything continues, but more quietly now, more gently. You are no longer moving through the night. You are resting within the morning, and there is nothing more you need to do. Sleep well.